You watched 12 videos on how to buy your first rental. You've saved 40 blog posts. Buy a rental has been on your vision board since 2022, and you still don't own one. I'm not going to give you a 13th video like that. I'm going to give you 6 steps in order with real 2026 numbers and nothing else. Because the problem isn't that you don't know enough. It's that you know too much. It's just not all in one place. Here's what's actually at stake. Every month you spend researching is a month when someone with less experience than you closes on a property. And the gap between you two gets harder to close. This isn't about motivation. It's just about the steps, not vibes. Here's the 6. Get your money ready, get your funding lined up, know what to look for, run the real cash flow math, survive inspections and closing, and rent it out like a business. Let's go. The clock's ticking. Okay, so step 1 is to buy like an investor, not a homeowner. So here's where every first rental video gets it wrong. And here's my actual take. Don't buy your first rental the way you would buy your first house. Most guides and gurus tell you to buy your first rental in your own personal name with a conventional loan, qualified off of your W-2. But if I were starting today, here's why I wouldn't do that. Every property that you own personally, it's going to need a conventional loan or you have to pay full cash for it. And if you get a conventional loan, that's going to stack against your debt to income ratio. And it doesn't matter how much you make. The math caps how many loans a bank will let you carry before they say no. So in other words, property number 1 quietly limits property number 2. And there's nothing wrong with it. That's actually how we got started. And so I want to tell you the right way to do it, which is my actual take. My recommendation is to buy a property under an LLC, financed with a loan underwritten on the property's rental income, not your paycheck. It's called a DSCR loan, debt service coverage ratio. The lender asks one question: does the rent cover the mortgage payment? Not what's your salary, not what's your DTI, your debt to income ratio, just the deal on its own 2 feet. Now here's what it actually takes in 2026. 20 to 25% down typically. Some lenders will go up to even 15% if it's a good deal and if you have a good credit score. And as always, better credit gets you a better rate. Right now, the rates are around 6.75 to 8%, but this keeps changing. And always remember that commercial loan rates are going to be slightly higher than conventional loan rates. And that's because this is a business now. And the lender wants the rent to payment ratio to be at 1 or better, which means that your rent has to be more than what the mortgage payment is going to be. 1.25 is better, and that's where the best rates live, which means that if the PITI, the principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, if that totals to $1,000 a month, your rent, if it's $1,250 a month or better, that looks really good to the lender. And the lender is also going to ask you for a few months of reserves on top of your down payment and closing costs. And on the LLC side, I'm not an attorney or a CPA. Setting up the entity properly, operating agreement, registered agent, its own bank account, and yes, you'll likely still personally guarantee the loan, even inside an LLC. Talk to yours before you do this. An LLC protects you from a lot. It doesn't make you invisible to the lender. And if you're looking for someone to help you form your LLC, I'm going to link them in the description so you'll be able to reach out to them. Okay, that's the account, the entity, and the loan. Now let's make sure you know how to calculate your numbers before you fall in love with anything. All right, step 2, and this is the step that stops you from crying in the parking lot. I have watched people fall in love with a listing. The paint colors, the backyard, how they would decorate it, all of it. And then they plan their whole year around it. And then they actually find out from the lender that they can't actually borrow what they set out to. Don't be that person. Talk to a lender before you shop for a property, not after. Quick legal note so nobody comes for me. I'm not a lender, I'm not a financial planner, and I can't give you personalized advice. I'm speaking from my own experience. Please talk to a lender so you can figure out what their needs are. One of the stories I always like to tell is how I made an Excel spreadsheet of 90 different banks that I called when I was first starting out. This is how I learned about commercial financing. All right, step 3 is this is not your dream home. This is your first employee. Stop shopping like you're buying a house to live in. Your specific needs versus the needs of tenants are going to be different. You have to get out of your own agenda and think about what they want. And a lot of new investors buy a property because they trust an agent and their lender. Get educated and look at a few properties before you buy your property. That's how you develop the pricing instinct. Sometimes a great deal may look ordinary and boring and and a bad deal may look exciting because you haven't developed your instincts and your capabilities yet. Now, what separates actual investors from hopeful landlords is the numbers. So that's step 4. The math doesn't care about our feelings. Okay, before I get into the math, I do want to tell you that we are all about numbers, but people always come first. Whenever we talk about numbers, I want you to remember that these numbers are not at the expense of the safety of your tenants or your team or yourself. These numbers are so you can run a profitable business. Okay, so I'm gonna pop a real example on the screen. You can pause the video and take a look at the numbers. Here's the purchase price, the down payment, loan amount, mortgage payment, taxes, insurance, maintenance reserve, vacancy reserve, because your property will not be rented 100% of the time. Plan for it versus real estate market rent and add it all up. Okay, here's the standard. Break even is the floor. Cash flow is the goal, and every property cash flows at the right price. Say it with me. Every property cash flows at the right price. And here's the best part. The same cash flow number you're calculating for yourself, that is the number the lender's also using. If it works for you, it's going to work for the loan. Okay, so the numbers work. You're under contract. Here's what happens next, and it's not just the paperwork. Step 5 is due diligence. You want to make sure you get a home inspection done and inspect everything. Roof, electrical, foundation, everything. And every property, even a great one, it'll turn something up. And that opens the room for renegotiating with the seller. And this is round 2 of negotiation. And most new investors skip this part out of embarrassment or being too polite. Don't. It's part of the process. And then here's one more thing that you need to consider. I would budget about 1 to 2% for closing costs. And then I would also budget a little bit for fixing some of the items that you couldn't negotiate or things that you may find after you acquire the property. Now, if you're buying a property and planning to do renovation, then those are the costs that you need to consider. Okay, it's rent ready. And this is the part that most guides skip through. And this is where investors leave money on the table. You're a landlord now, and I want you to act like a business, not a hobby. Professional photos, fast responses, listed in more than one place. Screen every tenant carefully and consistently. Being a responsible and fair landlord isn't optional. That's the whole job. Once it's stabilized, which is usually 6 months or a year, you've got a choice. Save for the next down payment or do what I did, which is part 2 of this video. So that's it. And if you follow step 1 just the way I gave it to you, you're already doing something most first-time rental property investors don't do. They never even hear about it. And if I were to go back in time to when I first started, that's genuinely how I would buy the first property today. In the next video, I'm going to go over how you can take this one experience but turn it into a scalable rental portfolio. How do you come up with that down payment again and again? I'm going to teach you a way to recycle this capital so you can use the same capital that you bought the first property with, but you're going to use it and go from one property to another buying assets. And this is how you can go from buying one property to 10 to 20 without it turning into a second job. That system, the recycled capital, the actual scaling mechanics, that's the next video. Go watch it before you buy your property.
Thanks for tuning in. If you found today's conversation valuable, be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. We've got many practical strategies and inspiring stories to help you build lasting wealth through real estate. Thanks for being here, and we'll see you in the next episode.